Sweden just made it a whole lot harder to become a citizen, and if you're already living here, this may make things a lot harder than you think. What does this mean? Longer wait times of living in Sweden to become a citizen, changes on requirements to become a citizen, as well as removal possibly of protections of those that have been in the queue to apply for citizenship for quite some time. So if your plan was to come to Sweden and start a new life here, this may completely change your timeline. If you're new here, my name is Brandon. I moved to Sweden almost 5 years ago, learned Swedish, got a job as a registered nurse here, and I've lived what it's like to go through the system here myself. I also talk with a lot of people here on my channel that have navigated the system. They're trying to move here, or they're trying to stay here, or get their license, get jobs. So I've learned a lot from sharing my story, as well as learning from all the other people's stories that have done the same here in Sweden. When these changes started coming out, I was paying very close attention because this isn't just politics, this is people's lives that are at stake as well. So one of the biggest changes is the fact that they are now changing from 5 years to 8 years to wait to be able to apply for citizenship. This is no small thing. Think about that. If you came here and were planning on staying here for 5 years and then apply for citizenship, this is now a 60% increase in the time you had to wait to apply for citizenship. So imagine if you've been here 3 years, well, now you have to wait an additional 5 years. And in many cases, there's also a little bit of time before and after. So you better be planning on at least a decade before you can even apply for citizenship. And for a lot of people, that changes everything. That changes maybe family planning, career planning, and whether or not they even stay here in Sweden at all. So let's make this a real life situation. Say you moved here 3 years ago, studied Swedish, got a job, integrated yourself in the system, and based on the old standards, you would have thought, oh, 2 more years, I can apply to become a citizen. When in reality, now you have to add on 5 more years. I think a lot of people underestimate the amount of psychological toll that takes on a person. So let's talk about the next big change, and that is tightening of financial expectations. This is nothing new. They've already had financial expectations, but they are getting tighter. And who does this affect? Well, the ones that are going to be impacted the most is low-income earners, people that are in jobs that are low-paying, perhaps people that work part-time, or students that are transitioning to the workforce. So even if you've worked here and lived here a long time, if your income is below a certain threshold, this could impact your eligibility to apply for citizenship and may even block it. One of the other big changes has to do with the language. There will be a language requirement as well, and it's not sure about the details on it, but you will have to pass a certain level of Swedish. And quite frankly, this is nothing really weird. This is actually quite normal in a lot of countries to pass a certain language exam, but there are a lot of concerns from a lot of people. Concerns are how the test is going to be done, how hard it's going to be done. What if perhaps you married the love of your life, a Swedish person here, and then all of a sudden you have a stroke or a learning disability and you're not able to do it, but you planned on staying here, living out your years. You may not be able to pass the language exam. Certainly there would need to be some sort of maybe exceptions to be able to be made for certain people. And as a person who learned Swedish good enough in 11 months to get my first job and working here as a nurse, I think it's quite a reasonable thing to expect people. I'm no one special. I have a learning disability and I'm not a young person, but I learned Swedish good enough to get a job. And the next big change is going to be there will be a civics exam in where you have to demonstrate your knowledge of the culture and the country, which is also nothing weird because a lot of countries also have that too. I know where I come from in the United States, we have a language exam and we have a civics exam as well. Now here comes the most controversial of all the changes, and that has to do with transitional rules. So basically, if you were in the queue and you met the requirements for the 5-year wait for citizenship, they are going to be backdated. So basically, maybe you had your whole life planned out, you met the 5-year wait period, and you're like, okay, now I just got to wait. Now they have added 3 years onto that wait time. So now you've got to replan your life accordingly. This is a shame because the Scandinavian countries tend to pride themselves on being high trust societies among the people that live there in those countries. And this really does a lot to damage that trust. And I'd like to give my take on all this. As a person who originally did a lot of research on coming here, I looked at a lot of different countries. I looked at the requirements, as did a lot of you people that are watching these videos and people who actually live here in Sweden. And they moved here based on the facts that they had at the time. And so these new changes have come to a shock to a lot of people. I understand why Sweden's doing it. A lot of people understand why they're doing it. It has a lot to do with changes to immigration policies, and it's very important to integrate into society that you're in. I think learning Swedish is very important. Knowing about the country you're coming to is very important. But this has come to a shock to a lot of people. And I think a lot of people, I talk to a lot of people out here in this community on my YouTube channel and on my other social media platforms. A lot of people are saying that this is creating a lot of anxiety for them. And there are people that were thinking about moving here that are skilled workers. And now Sweden is looking less appealing to a lot of people. So there's a lot of people that are okay with these changes. A lot of people came here before these changes and they're happy with their life in Sweden. But for many of us, there are a lot of concerns, and a lot of us are questioning, are we going to stay here? Because it's not just these changes that have occurred, but there's also a very long wait time. In fact, according to the immigration website, there are people that are waiting. It's not unusual for people to be waiting for 4 years to get approval. So imagine you do like me, you come here, 2 years doesn't count because you had to come and learn Swedish and then you were looking for work, but working at the same time. There was a technicality in my case, so they don't count that first year that I actually worked, even though I was paying taxes. Then you add on 8 years to that, that's 10 years. Then you got to add on to that maybe possibly 4 or 5 years. You're talking 14, 15 years. You think about what a normal human lifespan is, and if a person comes over here after they've already been educated and they're not 18 years old, maybe they went to college, got a master's degree, and they come here as a skilled worker, Sweden is not going to look like a very attractive place anymore for a lot of people. For certain people that already live in European lands or from, say, United States or Australia, I think it's going to be harder to convince people to want to come here and to put down roots here and start a new life here. But I think for people maybe that are coming from other lands that are struggling a bit more, I think Sweden's still going to be an attractive place to be because it's definitely an upgrade for them. Yeah, I think I understand why Sweden is doing this. It's all about integration, sustainability, immigration issues. But at the same time, this is really affecting the people that work really hard to learn Swedish, to immigrate. And, we are guests here in this country in Sweden, and there's not really anything we can do about it. But I would say to Sweden, if Sweden really wants to think a little bit more farsighted, it would be really nice if there was some sort of program that could attract people here to this country that can add to society. Because I think what's going to happen is a lot of skilled workers are going to be looking elsewhere because there's a lot of other pathways to come to Europe. There's a lot of other European countries that are much easier to move to. And there are other pathways to come live in Sweden. For example, if you were to move to Ireland, like in my case, I'm applying for UK citizenship that I inherited through my mother because of some recent law changes. I technically can live and work in Ireland for 5 years, get EU citizenship, and then I can move back to Sweden. And then I don't need Swedish citizenship to live here. If I marry an Irish person, I get Irish citizenship in 3 years and then can move to Sweden quicker than going through the process despite after living here for 5 years and counting the time that I've been here towards citizenship. So it's going to be really interesting to see how the dust settles and all this, and it's going to be really interesting to follow a lot of the stories of different people that have gone through these things. And I talked to a lot of people that have reached out to me, and they said they got citizenship after 10 to 15 years being here, even though technically it was shorter times because of the long queues and all the technicalities and the bureaucracy. And in those time periods, the government's changed 2, 3 times. And I think what that shows you is just how unstable policies can be with governments. If we wait a year or two, there may be a new government. They may go back on some of these things. Maybe they'll create some sort of fast track program. I know that was under discussion, but of course that didn't get voted into play. I think that would have been great if they had something like Canada has, or the UK, or even Australia, where you have some sort of fast track program to attract nurses and doctors, things that Sweden is really hurting for. So we'll just have to see what the future holds. So my advice to you, if you live here or are thinking about moving here, pay very close attention to the rules. Go on the immigration websites. There is really good information there on Migrationsverket, or the immigration agency here in Sweden. Very detailed information. Keep up with that. Put your feelers out. hear what people are saying in the communities. On top of that, make sure that if you are here, that you have a stable job. Make sure that you're meeting all the criteria, that you're not breaking any rules, that your income doesn't go below a certain threshold. If you don't know Swedish, start learning Swedish. Get your Swedish up to at least the B2 level. There's lots of discussion that that's going to be the expectation, is that it's an A2 or B2 level. For myself, I'm not worried about that. I'm already at that level. But for a lot of people have lived here for 10 years and can't speak Swedish. So if you look at the way everything's going, what's in the future for Sweden? Well, maybe they'll be like Denmark. Maybe they'll add another year to the 8 years. Maybe they'll be like Austria and go up to 10 years. Maybe they'll have a change of heart and they'll back up and they'll go back down to 5 or something else. Who knows? Right now, the way the world is, a lot of countries are in a state of flux. The world is a crazy place to live right now. There are countries like Germany that actually made it much harder to get citizenship, and then later on backed up and said, hey, no, we're going to go back to shorter periods and make it a little bit easier. So who knows? So do you think these changes are fair? Do you think it's reasonable? Do you think Sweden is making a good choice, thinking about the country as a whole? Be interesting to see what you guys have to say about all this. And if you enjoy content about Sweden and want to learn more about living here, immigration, my own life here in Sweden, feel free to continue to follow me on this channel. Thank you for all the love and support, and I really appreciate you guys. I have met some amazing people on this channel, and I couldn't do what I do without you guys. Thanks so much. Take care. See you in the next video.